Hey friends, how's it going? It's been a while since I used any of my little video toys, huh? Well, I'm looking kind of rocky just now, and I don't want that to stop me from recording, so we're going to do it this way, and hopefully it won't do too much flashing. Of course, it's just a body, so if it does, no big deal. Okay, this was written on 8/5. It was the second one of that day, and the Mayan day was 9 wind. But I finished it on 12 Serpent. Don't have too many of those, but I guess I got interrupted or something. Okay. I notice it is different feelings or sensings that send me to the journal. I think I'll start noticing this more to see what is acting there. How are you doing at noticing the self, at watching the goings on, not just in your head, but in your whole life? The more we get to know the self in these days, the steadier we will be when and if any craziness erupts in the world. Lack of self-knowledge is largely why our teens and young ones make poor choices. Well, now to us, their choices may seem poor, and from the perspective of the loving parent, well, they are. But let's also look from their perspective, friends, and be fair about that. We all can. Come on, we were all once teens ourselves. Had I my child raising to do over again, I think I'd work more toward tuning in to my child's higher self. This is the one with all the answers, both for the child and for you. Those decisions they make that mind tends to label as bad or negative in its typical knee-jerk way just aren't seen from that perspective of their own higher self. Now, who knows? It may have been just for this purpose that your child incarnated, to experience the results of this seemingly bad decision. How can you know? When we live in heart, during child raising, we'll be more in tune to the soul than the outer consciousness or mind of our children. Between their soul and higher self, we'll get a better grasp on what they're here to accomplish. One thing I'd like to suggest is that we all begin pulling those weeds from the belief garden that speak about karma, of that whole judgment or punishment way of viewing life. We've lived with that for such a very long time now, so we may find a great many weeds need to be pulled. So stay on watch for them to turn up. No judgment. It's not that karma is good or bad. It's actually neutral, being largely just the workings of what we've called cause and effect. So there can be good karma, just as there can be so-called bad. What I suggest is that this is just a more limited way to view life, a very 3D perspective. With our frequencies and conscious rising now, our view or perspective can broaden, can encompass more. Let's keep rising above views that keep us bound to 3D and duality. Well, first, the whole right and wrong thing has to go. Is it gone for you yet? Have you suddenly seen through it how completely a part of duality and polarity it is? It's the epitome of that, really, right and wrong. It's the heart of judgment itself. And we know, those of us who have found our way into heart, that no judgment is found there. None at all. Zip zero as in nada. Well now, if there's no judgment in heart, if higher self doesn't see life that way, then what are we doing judging things? Most of us also have some remnants of belief in a punishing God figure of some kind. It's in many religions. Any God who could create a hell and and then condemn those who made terrible mistakes to suffer there eternally is no God I have any use for at all. So I reject that God and all of its teachings wholesale. While there may be, and actually is, some truth in the mix, I'd rather go elsewhere for my truth, but that's just me. Be sure you make your own decisions, of course. I just want you to know where I'm coming from, to be as transparent as possible. So, the way I see it, judgment is bound up with karma and the whole right and wrong view of things. The three make one whole. I have no use for any of them at this point. Now, if you wonder how to get along without the right and wrong way of viewing things, what if you were instead to see the choices as good, better, and best? Would that work for you? Every choice your child makes is good for something, even the so-called bad ones. Everything can be seen to bring blessing when viewed with heart eyes. Yes, everything. No exceptions. Stay out of mind, though. You can be skeptical later. For now, just do what you can to remain in heart so you'll understand. I can promise you that the skeptic will not understand. If absolutely everything brings blessings of some kind, then it's a matter of choosing the best ones. Now, there's no wrong or bad in that. It's all good. Hey, who knows? Maybe this is how Source sees. Anyway, it sure works well for me. Good, better, and best. We move thus from judgment into discernment via heart, not the mind's way. Mind can give us its input, but let our decisions all come from heart. We've heard that distance lends a certain charm to the view. Well, it lends more than that. It lends a broader perspective, too. Again and again, when in a fix or a mess or just down or whatever, I find that stepping back can help. We forget that we're not human. We slip into the groove of thinking we are, or that we're just human. Well, we are not, never were, nor will be. Human is like a car or a tool we took on as the key into a certain dimension. This is not us down here in 3D. In this way, you can distance yourself from so very much. Just get a new perspective on it. Just as you can let the mind give you its views on things, you can do the same with your human host, the body you use there. Let it give you its views on things too. And then take it all into heart, where the best and finest decisions originate. The heart just knows. It's been such a long walk. First, getting used to these bodies, getting them to work well. Now we're stepping back from them, from identifying with them so much. For a long while, we were tricked into believing the body was us. Well, if we'll just look at that, we can see how it made us so much easier to manipulate. Threaten the body is to threaten us, or so we believed. We all but forgot our eternality, immortality, who we really are. I don't think we meant to do that initially, way back when we started this incarnating thing. I think we were meant to maintain a balance between the higher self and the soul in the body below. We could shift back and forth in that awareness to meet the need of the moment. We had to stay out of a totally higher self view, or we'd know everything before it happened, and that takes some of the fun out of being in 3D. But be that as it may, at some point we got trapped into believing we were this 3D thing, this body-mind complex. With it, we effectively lost most of the range of our previous vision of things. Well, not really lost, just lost the use of them. When you don't know something exists, you're not going to reach for it or use it. So, we were convinced for a time. That time is past. It's officially over. Where are we now? Where are you? How much of heart vision have you rediscovered? It's there waiting for you in case you haven't found it yet. I suppose it must have been there all along. We just didn't know. We were so hypnotized that even when the sages and the avatars came, we really didn't understand what they were saying, what they were trying to tell us. One of the ways I'm noticing this awakening is in how much that was unclear is now understood, such as the Tao Te Ching and the words of Christ and the various Buddhas. Now, I'm not saying I get all they say. I don't yet. It's just that you can hear a phrase 100 times without really getting it. Then suddenly, somehow, it just seems to click. Now, all of a sudden, it becomes crystal clear, like you always knew it, things like that. A little here, a little there. The new understanding isn't arriving all at once, but I'm noticing it. How about you? When we add this to the natural detachments that have been happening for pretty much all of us, well, it adds up to something we've all been wanting: awakening. We really can do this thing incrementally. Well, it's doing us, but anyway, if we would all see and accept that, there would be less pressure on these trigger dates like 12/21 of this year. We'd do less looking outside of us for any answers to come to. As the sages have long said, the kingdom is within. That's where we go to be reborn, born back into spirit and light, graduating from these heavy flesh forms. We were born into them. Now we're being born right out of them. Well, I'm ready. I think we're all more than ready, as our time here has been so very challenging. It's time to drop the idea, though, that it's been such a long time. Our whole sense of time is going out the door, going to morph in some very big ways. So, as long as we continue to cling to the old ways of seeing time, well, that'll just get in the way. It's time for us to be making room for simultaneous time in whatever way makes sense for each of us. Thanks, Source, for quantum mechanics. It's the closest thing to higher dimensional physics that we have so far. Well, as far as I know, and that's not so much, but anyway. It's also good not to trust what the mind reports very much. The lighter our hold on that mind, the better able is the higher mind to come in. Do you see? This is pointing to how important non-attachment is to making the shift, the great shift. The less we cling to and identify with here in 3D, the better and quicker able will be the shift to carry us along, up into those higher frequencies. Things are just different there. I don't see a better way to say it. If we remain attached to things as they are, well, rather as we think they are, then it won't be so easy to drop that and make room for what we find as we move into the light. Think of it this way. At some point, your body will no longer cast a shadow. The light will come from within every cell. We are literally converting to crystalline and into light. If each cell and atom radiates, then how can you cast any shadow? It'll be like 12 noon all the time. We will be lighter. Many burdens will be cast off. Most of that will be elements of our programming at the hands of the powers that were. gone down the cosmic drain, finally. To be ready, the way I see it, is to hold everything here much lighter, not to cling, not to anything. That is also to surrender, not the things, but our need for or attachment to them. That puts us in the best posture to be taken up into the light that's reaching out to us now, every day, every night. Yes, even in our dreams, many of which remain hidden from us, but not for too much longer. As a part of hiding the magnificence of our native divinity, some or even many of our dreams had to remain hidden from our outer consciousness. The beliefs we held didn't accommodate who and what we really are, what we may do at night in service to light. Some of you may be surprised to wake up and find you have been spiritual guides for others while you sleep. Won't that be a surprise? Just as there are physical schools, there are etheric spiritual ones. And many of us, most, maybe all of us, have attended these. If you have memory of being taught things of light in a classroom sort of setting, it may be in those schools. Each school has its own specialty, different ones for different aspects of light and mastery. Some call it for different rays or colors of light. I know I have some small recollection over the years of being in these classes. At this point, I have to say that I don't know how totally of the light they are. They seem pretty strongly based on the concept of hierarchy. Yet now I find hierarchy to be more a component of the dark side than of the light. So, I don't know. Both in and out of the body, let us be wise and also cautious, not too quick to believe. Beliefs create. When a light being appears before you, go straight into heart, and then question that one. Don't just blindly accept due to their bright appearance. When we are wise as serpents, we'll remember that dark ones can also appear as light and as angels for a time. It's their vibration that will be different, though. It'll be off in some way. That's why the caution to make a beeline for heart when anything appears, waking or dreaming, either one. And then just be sure to question them. The true light beings won't mind at all. They know the conditions we've been working under. They understand. Plus, one thing that's mighty consistent about the dark side is their arrogance. Maybe you've noticed. So, when you question them, they get irritated, and you can feel that. So, when you can question yourself about whether, then you can question yourself about whether a true being of light would respond that way. Don't be too quick to go along with them. Remember and use your free will. Call on your own spiritual guides to support you there, which the dark ones will also try to impersonate. Let's just be alert, even if we're making that stuff up and it's just a part of ourself that's appearing there. You know, the dark side is the dark side, and it's just good to identify it. That's all. And no fear. That's the really big one. The main hold the powers that were have had on us is fear. And yet, that's a free will thing. We can choose to step out of, to walk away from it. We can each work through our fear. Even just sitting with it without running away is a big step in the right direction, and sometimes all it takes. This fear indicates we are not yet completely believing in our divinity. That's all. Once we accept our nature as divine, there will be no more fear. And that's accessible here and now, while we yet retain a presence in 3D. Please don't think it's beyond you. Instead, know that the programming is what pulls you into fear so that you can discard the programmed belief, and the fear goes out with them, out the door. Besides, if you'll step back and look at that, maybe with some hindsight, you'll see that the fear was a thing of mind. There's no fear in heart. Even just living a 3D life here, but without any fear, is a huge improvement. So, as long as you're subject to any fear, just know that you haven't quite pulled all the programming weeds planted by the powers that were in your garden of belief. That's all. It's pretty easy to remedy, really. It just takes a certain stubborn determination. I hope you see. Get rid of the fear of death. That's a good one to go after. It's been really hyped up here in the USA, where dead bodies are dolled up and hidden from view, except for some ceremonial moments. That's been part of the plan, to make death fearful. You fear what you can't see, right? Well, death isn't fearful. It's a really exciting time of graduation from this. The first time you bust through to your higher awareness, and remember crossing over even once in one lifetime, you'll just know how ridiculous it is to fear that wonderful moment. Instead, it's a huge joy. Fear narrows the view. It tightens the lens and makes you tense. Yet it's not that difficult to deal with if we'll just meet it, invite it to sit to tea, and be there quietly with it. I have journals on dealing with fear, and Nelia Benz has a good exercise too to banish fear. It's based on misunderstanding, that's guaranteed, and it can be transcended. You don't need to be subject to that. This is some of the best use we can make of our time while still here. Every fear we can process now will be that much of an assist in the great shift, will be that much less in our way. Whatever we haven't dealt with or transmuted when that should occur will make things somewhat difficult, but still, we'll make it. It's a matter of choosing, remember, between good, better, and best. So we do what's in our best interests now. It's learning to truly love the self. As we do, we will be automatically brought into such things. They'll happen naturally. So that thing before you that stirs up your fear, look upon it as an ally and a blessing. It's just time for you to deal with this particular energy. That's all it's saying. You've got it to do, see? The more we learn to see with heart vision, the more such things will come clear to us. We'll just know. It'll be so easy to see how simply everything is there for our blessing. That's built into the design of it. And yet, it's up to us to take advantage of such things. We still have free will. No one will force you to wake up. If you're not ready, then it won't happen. Now, that's actually a mercy, a mark of compassion, so as not to use force. To force us into awakening would be a bit like the call to fight for peace. It's an obvious oxymoron, but how many notice? Not those who reside in the mind. Besides, what we fight, we just connect the self to that much more tightly. And what we run from, we magnetize. This is how the energy works. We've been programmed with lies, so we wouldn't be able to put such things together. The better to keep us under control, we were taught the opposite just about of every truth. Well, we're busting out now, at least incrementally, and I find that to be fine. With a rather delicate body, I can't take too much at one time anyway, while some of you stronger ones can. Yet it's all beautifully individualized for each one of us. Let's start noticing how very perfectly things are arranged. Are you ready? Are you willing? Or do you have too many old grudges you just want to cling to? Ultimately, waking up too is a choice made millions of times in all the little decisions we make. And we've got loads of support, not only each other, but also our angels and guides. Higher self itself is a huge support in lifting us up into it when we're ready. That's who we really are. But until we lift our eyes from the muck and the mire that we've chosen to see, we won't be seeing that. Where we place the focus of our attention turns out to be rather important. We're either creating light or darkness with every choice. We choose to see either light or darkness in every view. So much of it all gets down to our choice. How many of your choices do you feel really good about? Those are in alignment with higher self. And as for the other, they represent weeds not yet pulled, old outworn beliefs still operating subconsciously. Remember, the best way I know of to get them and pull them is to plant new, carefully chosen beliefs. That brings the old ones into sight so you can eliminate them and move on. Blessings, my friends, and namaste. Can't get it to wink. Oh well, I tried. Good day.